Source: Henzuki. The story begins while the teacher discusses something at school. Our main character, Keiki, suddenly thinks he really needs a girlfriend. Intrusive thoughts amidst his class. I wonder why. Sayuki then messages him, who is painting something in a different room. When Keiki arrives at the club room where Sayuki is, he finds the room full of papers with ink on them. Oh, that was literally a mess. Sayuki then confusingly asks why they waste their precious time on silly errands, like cleaning the club room, when she's the one who trashed it. Yuka, who's under the trash, complains that it's Sayuki, who she called, which was the reason why cleaning is such hard work. Even though she's not part of the club, Bro just chose to be honest this time. Mao then interrupts and starts cleaning so they can get home early. Kiki, who offered to stay up to tidy the room, found a letter on the table addressed to him. Oopsie, someone might get a girlfriend here. He then reads it, and it says in the love letter that she likes him. Thinking about who might write the letter, he found another thing on the table. At first he was not sure what it was, but when he opened it, he found out it was panties. Why are there undies low-key sailing in that room? Kiki was playing cards with Shuma when he asked what his interpretation of the panties was. Considering that it could be a prank, Shuma thought it was an immature thing to do for someone their age. There, preach to them. Shuma then suggests a name, Cinderella, for her, the one who dropped her underwear instead of her shoe. Innocent Cinderella got dragged into the scene. I'm sobbing. But since the letter was in their club room, they narrowed down the suspect list. Beautiful and busty Tokahara Sayuki, cute and honest Kobe Yuka, friendly and approachable classmate Nanju Mao, and caring younger sister Kiryu Mizuva. Now scenes are getting exciting. Kiki was on his way to the club room to look for clues when he saw Sayuki, who suggested that he take a nap in the club room because he had bags under his eyes. He then encounters Yuka at the library, who speaks naturally to be Cinderella. While playing basketball, Kiki saw Mao on the side, who diverted his eyes when she saw him looking at her. Wrong move, Mao-kun, now you're doomed. Thinking that it might be Mao, he re-encounters Sayuki in the streets, who was looking for the owner of the dog she saw. When Sayuki saw how the dog's owner caressed her pet, she asked Kiki to do it. At home, Kiki asked his sister Mizuha who might leave the club room last after the cleaning. Mizuha thinks it was Sayuki. Kiki was gone for around 10 minutes. If the person who left the letter in panties during that time was Sayuki, Kiki feels that he has to ask her properly. Let's pray for a fast result. While discussing it loudly with himself, Sayuki heard Kiki and interpreted that Kiki wanted to go out with her, so she said yes. Did they just misread each other? At the restaurant, Sayuki thanked Kiki for saving their club, which was on the verge of collapsing last year. She then asks Kiki if he regrets joining the club, which is the opposite of his feelings. When Kiki asks Sayuki if she has hidden feelings for him or feels special emotions toward him, she suddenly gets up and leaves him with no words. Oh, she low-key wants to kill his frontal lobe. Starting from that, whenever Kiki encounters Sayuki, she will run fast to avoid him. She's very good at this, huh? Mao, worried about Kiki, suggested the wall slam to stop a girl from escaping. Oh my, Wall-kun will be dragged into the scene. If it's someone the girl is interested in, it could be pretty exciting and romantic. Seeing Sayuki, he follows her until he finds the right timing and wall slams her. He really dragged the innocent wall. Kiki said that he knew Sayuki's secret just recently. He wasn't sure at first but grew suspicious of her attitude. Sayuki then asks Kiki to meet her in the club room after class. So throughout the night and day, Kiki is excited. When it's finally time, he goes to the club room only to find that Sayuki wants him to pet her. Is she her past pet reincarnated as a human or something? Sayuki wants Kiki to own her and be her master. She never thought Kiki would discover her secret that she is a hardcore masochist pervert. Now this is a huge revelation, no doubt. Sayuki dreamed of becoming Kiki's pet so he could discipline her all night long. She wanted someone to scold her, so she wanted Kiki to make her his pet. Yeah, indeed a masochistic one. Back in the school, he saw Okita, who commended him for his excellent work cleaning the club room and reminded him that he had forgotten to lock the room. After analyzing, Kiki thinks that Cinderella was in the club room when he found the love letter. During the 10 minutes he was gone, Cinderella pretended to go home but came back. When she noticed that Kiki had come back, she hid somewhere in the room in a hurry. When Kiki locked the door and left, Cinderella opened it from the inside and went before Okita came. In that case, the girl's order to leave the club room wasn't necessary. Kiki then began to investigate again. She's giving him a really good time, no? In the library, Kiki finds Yuka cute and considerate. But Sayuki suddenly appears behind Kiki, shocking him. Sayuki thanked him for that exciting overreaction. Kiki asks her why she's blowing in her ear and asks her to stop that because he doesn't enjoy being toyed with out of boredom. Being an insolent mutt who angered her master, Sayuki asks Kiki to discipline and torment her as he desires. She doesn't really enjoy doing that, I doubt. Yuka, who saw Sayuki getting close to Kiki, asks her to get quiet in the library. Oopsie, someone's jealous here. Yuka, who constantly urges Kiki about what they did with Sayuki, asks him to go on a date with her too. Kiki now thinks that Yuka might also be Cinderella. Mizuha, who heard Kiki talking about it, gave him tips on how to treat girls properly. First, be there early so he arrives before Yuka. Second, he made sure to compliment her outfit and hairstyle, so he did. Third, takes the lead, so he escorts Yuka to the movie theater. Fourth, lunch at a fast food restaurant, so they eat after the movie. Fifth, accompany her shopping until she is delighted. He's good at following directions, yeah? After going into so many stores but buying nothing, Yuka tells Kiki that she needs to wash up. But in the restroom, she encounters many boys without Kiki knowing. After noticing that Yuka is gone for a while, Kiki enters the toilet and finds her surrounded by boys, so he takes her and runs away. Bro chooses to escape over violence, I commend. Afterward, they went home and thanked each other for a fun date. Kiki realizes that Yuka is racially mixed. Her eyes and hair were beautiful for her, but it caused people to push her away, but she didn't seem to care. Maybe they find Yuka's beauty difficult to approach. Right, he's good at noticing things. Over and over again, Kiki keeps talking to Yuka, even though she considers him strange until the ice in her eyes seems to melt away slowly. Kiki then asks himself if Yuka were Cinderella, would that be how they spend their days? Yeah, keep on wondering. Kiki was discussing with Shuma when Yuka texted him asking to come to the storage area in the library after school. Kiki went hoping that Yuka would be Cinderella. Yuka felt Kiki might be the one because he was reliable and excellent. She is hoping that he could see her as his only one, so Yuka asks Kiki if he can be her slave. Now I'll tell you a fact, bro is a girl magnet. Becoming a slave to a cute girl, Yuka thought it was a treat for boys. A good master must give treats to her obedient slave, so she said that if Kiki agreed to be her slave, she would provide him with something precious. I wonder what it could be. Yuka then took her freshly worn panties out and gave them to Kiki, thinking that would make the boys happy. Whoa, hey there Undies-kun, why are you here again? Kiki wakes up from a bad dream and wants to skip school today by pretending, but Mizuha, his sister, doesn't allow it. Not his lucky day, I'm certain. If neither Sayuki nor Yuka was Cinderella, the remaining candidate was Mao. When Kiki opened the locker, he found a blue bra from Yuka. Okay, now after Undies-kun, they're dragging the innocent bra into the scene. Yuka learned that panties don't please Kiki, so she did that. That was good reasoning skills, no. She also offers that bra as a present, but Kiki refuses because Yuka might not have worn a bra that day. He concluded quicker than Oates, yeah? She argues why she would give joy to other boys, although she doesn't mind showing it to Kiki or feeding him her panties. I hope Kiki-kun is still breathing. Yuka then tells a story in a picture book about a prince who learned about the joys of servitude and lived happily ever after with the princess. Yuka is trying to say that their ideal relationship is similar to the story. After hearing that, Kiki runs as fast as possible and plans to go home to flirt with Mizuha. Whoa, so the word flirt is in his vocabulary. Still, before that, he goes again to his locker only to find an erotic picture of him with Sayuki, who threatens him that if he doesn't come to the club room, she will distribute the photo all over the internet together with his full name. Okay, someone's playing as an antagonist here. He runs again to go to the club room, and when he opens the door, Sayuki is wearing a maid outfit, calling him a master. Portraying a maid, Sayuki asks Kiki what he needs, but he only requires her to get change, but the handcuffs need a lock to open. So Kiki asks where the key is, but earlier, Sayuki tries to put it on the desk using her mouth but accidentally drops it to her cleavage. The key is a paid actor, no doubt. Kiki was about to find a girl who could do it, but Sayuki reasoned that she was about to pee, so Kiki had no choice but to reach out his hand and get the keys to her. Once again, Sayuki offered Kiki to be her master, but he refused because it's not right if there is no love. There slapped her with facts. Kiki believes that both Sayuki and Yuka are not Cinderella, and that leaves to the remaining candidate Mao. Shuma also thinks it might be her cause he always sees her looking at him. Kiki was thinking when Sayuki texted him to meet her at the club room after school. He has no choice because she might do something scary again. Oh no, he's literally in a doomed situation. On his way to the club room, Yuka put her hands on Kiki's face, and he was about to remove her hands, but Yuka reasoned that she was naked to seduce him, and she couldn't let go or else he would see her naked. She then guided him to the empty classroom, made him sit on a chair, and tied him up. As a punishment for leaving Yuka to go to Sayuki, Yuka asks Keiki to kiss her foot and make him promise that he will forever be Yuka's property physically and mentally. But Keiki refuses. Now I'm sobbing. Someone please help our poor Kiki there. Still, she would forcefully kiss him if he didn't do it. Yuka's about to kiss him when Sayuki barged in and made her stop what she was doing. Phew, that was close. Sayuki knew that Yuka acted cute and harmless in front of Kiki, but Sayuki was also a pervert who desired to become a slave and pet. Unknown to Kiki, they knew each other's desires the moment they met, so that's why they couldn't get along. But Sayuki never guessed that Yuka wanted to enslave Kiki because he was her master and Yuka couldn't have him. The scene is getting hotter and hotter now. They began fighting for Keiki until Mao came and took Keiki from the two. At last Mao-kun appears. They tried to chase them but got tangled up, and both of them stumbled with each other. Serves them right. It's early in the morning when Kiki and Mao meet in the locker room. Yuka also came and apologized for her behavior last time and spoke about how close Kiki and Mao are. Mao doesn't smile often, and the only time she seems to have fun is when she's with Kiki. Kiki is about to talk to Mao when he receives a message from Sayuki, who asks him to come to the club room. Hope she won't do anything bad. Who's nervous? After arriving, Sayuki apologizes for how he behaved with Yuka and will now refrain from making advances on Kiki in public. Phew. Back with Mao, she asks Keiki if they're friends and then asks a favor of their friends. Why they don't hang out at all these days, so she gave him a chance to make up for it. Kiki, Mao, and Shuma are now in the arcades and are playing many games, including taking pictures in a photo booth. It's already dark when they finish and Shuma goes first, so Keiki will walk home to Mao. While walking, Mao asks Keiki about moving forward as a couple, not as a trio. She chose to state what she wants. Suddenly, rain pours down, so both run until they find shelter. Looks like Rain-kun isn't in favor of her, no? Kiki volunteers to get something warm, but when he returns, he sees her looking at the picture of Shuma. Kiki thinks that she likes Shuma because of that, but she refuses and says that Kiki got it wrong. She then leaves and proceeds to go home, and so does Kiki. Okay, who's doubting? In the club room with Sayuki, Kiki was not putting his heart into what he was doing, so he suggested he could speak to her, a reliable leader if he was worried about something. Kiki had problems talking to Mao if she had that kind of expression. Mizuha was pampering her brother when he asked what was going on lately, so Kiki opens up about how things are going awkward with Mao and how he thinks she's hiding something from him. Kiki couldn't understand what it was, so he lashed out and questioned her, which probably hurt her. Mizuha advises him that he can't force her if she doesn't want to talk, and that even friends or family can have difficulty completely opening up to someone, mainly because you care about them. She's good at this, I'm certain. But still, Kiki wants to know Mao better and doesn't want to be separated from her, so he should have to get back on good terms with her, according to Mizuha. Kiki asks his sister what he should do, and Mizuha responds to go all in and not try to do anything special and do what naturally he does as he feels. Now that was good advice. Back in the school, he tries to talk to Mao, but she avoids him and walks away. Bro got ignored faster than I could think of. Still, Keiki follows her, and that's when she finally speaks with him, saying that it was all Kiki's fault that she was losing sleep, super annoyed, and in so much pain. She always thought of Kiki every night, and her head was jumbled up. Whoa, she slapped him with honesty this time. Keiki apologizes for causing her to be troubled, but he regrets hurting her and does not want to fight with her. He also wants her to forgive him because he wants to know more about her. Keiki asks her if they can be friends again, and he will do anything for her, so Mao took this opportunity to ask him to get into a relationship with each other. To get Keiki into a romantic relationship with Shuma. This caught me off guard. She wants them to be an exclusive romantic couple. Mao is a fujoshi who likes stories where men love other men. Oh no, things are getting out of its place. Keiki then asks her why she would write BL manga about him and Shuma because his privacy is being sacrificed. Keiki doesn't care about Mao's hobby, but he asks not to base it on him and Shuma. Bro chooses to fight for his right. She can't do that because many girls are waiting for the sequel, and got rejected so fast. In the Shoto club room, Yuka was wearing a bunny costume that Sayuki suggested because she wanted to join the club. and it wouldn't be fun just to let her in the club. Mao, also there, joined the club and expected Kiki to treat her as a fellow member. After their encounter, I doubt it. Since Mao is now part of the club, Sayuki told her their little situation, Kiki being a candidate for both master and slave. Then they get started on the club activities, and that day the Shodo Club becomes a den of perverts. Let's just pray for them. While walking, Kiki then remembers what happened in the astronomy club. After reading the message from his locker that if he doesn't come to the astronomy club immediately after reading the letter, they will reveal the picture of him helping Sayuki with her keys. If Kiki doesn't comply, his dignity may be jeopardized. He's totally unlucky, I'm certain. Kiki enters the astronomy club room. Someone closes the door and tells him not to move. Kiki thought that this kind of situation had been happening frequently to him lately. Yeah, no doubt. The girl didn't know what to do, so she resorted to blackmailing Kiki with a photo. At first, the girl was just happy watching from a distance, but her emotions overflowed after a while. Kiki thought she was cute and might be the Cinderella he sought. The girl said that he liked him, so Kiki was in a state of shock and asked her to get married. Bro was faster than a speeding ticket. The girl then confusingly asks why they have to be married. Kiki began walking backward, and that's when he saw the pictures of Shuma everywhere and got slapped by the universe so quickly. After their encounter in the astronomy club, they go to the restaurant, and that's when the girl introduces herself as Otori Koharu. She then tells Kiki that she's in love with Shuma, and she wants Kiki to be their Cupid. I felt bad for him, I'm sobbing. Koharu thinks that Kiki is the right person for the job since he is close to him, and fortunately, she possesses his weakness of him, the picture. Although Kiki thinks that Koharu doesn't need his help because she's precisely Shuma's type, small, young-looking, and pretty. But Koharu was in her third year, she wore a blue skirt like Sayuki, meaning she was Keiki-senpai. Shuma likes underages, and someone older than him would be a tough sell. That was bad news, I guess. Each grade has a different stripe in the girls' uniform. Instead, they all wore the same pink skirts. Because of that, Kiki thought about something that could avert him from a life-or-death catastrophe. Kiki makes Koharu hide her blue ribbon for the third year and have her called Shuma-senpai, and then her age can be easily concealed. Kiki plans to get Shuma close to her, then they reveal her age. Oh my, why am I seeing more catastrophes with this? Phase 1 of Kiki's plan is going well. For Koharu, talking to Shuma feels like a dream come true. She thinks that she has achieved everything she ever wanted in her life. Now in his room, Kiki opens up another message from Cinderella that says she loves him. But for him, why wouldn't she show up? Agree, why wouldn't she? Back again with Koharu, she thinks that Kiki seems unhappy, so she asks him if he wants to talk about that. So Kiki tells him about Cinderella who dropped her panties. Kiki felt it might be Sayuki, Yuka, or Mao, but they all turned out to be perverts. Yeah, he's just hopeless now. Koharu then thinks that Cinderella might be an outsider and snuck into the club room after watching everyone leave. Koharu believes that every girl on the campus might be a suspect, but they can narrow it down to the girls in the club building at that time. A fifth Cinderella candidate, Kiki thinks about what she'd be like. He then saw the vice chairperson walking up the stairs while holding a bunch of papers that flew down to where she stepped, so she slid down and fell at the top of Kiki. I wonder if the papers are paid actors know? In the faculty office, Kiki asks Okita about the day they cleaned the club room and if she met anyone in the club building. Okita walked by a female student in the connecting hallway, and it was Ayano, a second-year student. Kiki was on a bench when Ayano appeared behind him. Something suspicious here. Ayano was looking for Kiki to repay him for saving her. Thanks to him, she fell off the stairs but got away unhurt. She then gave him a gift as a token of gratitude. Okay, let's shrug it all off. She's just grateful. He then tells her it is time to return to class, and she agrees that being late is not desirable. Still, before going, Ayano hugs him to recharge for her to make it through the afternoon, back with Koharu, who takes a picture of what happened between Kiki and Ayano on the bench. Wait, I want to take back what I've said. This is suspicious. Koharu ran a check on Fujimoto Ayano, and she's an outstanding student, nothing to be cautious of so far. However, the frequency of her contact with Kiki is an anomaly that is hard to ignore. Agreed. Utori's thinking deeply hot. Kiki went to the Shodo club room, and there was only Yuka as the other two went to their things. As Kiki is about to enter, he trips because of a string. Then Yuka takes the opportunity to sit above Kiki, asking him to take responsibility. Unfortunately, Keiki appeared in Yuka's dream, saying massaging the breasts is the best way to make them bigger. Yuka is about to massage the breast of Kiki when he suddenly touches Yuka's, which makes her run away. Okay, what just happened? Ayano then appeared for auditing. She needed to ensure the club budget was spent correctly. Ayano then asks Keiki if she needs volunteers to pick up trash around the town, and it would be great if Kiki were there. For Keiki, it was also an excellent opportunity to investigate Ayano. It is now time to clean the town, and Sayuki is also there because, as a pet, she must help her master. She really stood by her words, huh? Ayano asks what she means, but is still grateful for the help. Sayuki finds a big piece of trash and needs help picking it, so she asks Keiki to come and help her. As they come to where the garbage is, Sayuki confesses that it was a lie, and she gets jealous because her master spends time with others. She then pushed Keiki and positioned herself on top of him. She licked his cheeks to leave her mark, overriding other females' scent with hers. Keiki, thinking that he should stop her, remembers how his grandfather calms down a dog. She's now officially a pet, I'm certain. Keiki then massages Sayuki's butt, delicate yet bold. He successfully stopped her and was about to apologize to Sayuki when she said she felt excited about it. Sayuki then takes her leave, embarrassed to face Keiki, and keeps a straight face. No doubt, it was getting late and Ayano suggested leaving. She was about to go first when she slipped and fell on water. In the student council office, Ayano thanked Keiki for the jacket and for saving her. She then gave him an apple pie that was so delicious, according to Keiki. For Ayano, being with Keiki is relaxing. She then suddenly sleeps. He's definitely her sleeping pill. The situation he is in, Keiki finds it romantic, with no mentions of pets, slaves, BL reference material, or anything abnormal. This is the kind of thing Keiki was looking for. Keiki then suddenly slept too. When he wakes up, he sees Ayano in the middle of his legs, so he shockingly asks her what she's doing. Ayano confesses that she has a fetish smell, and Kiki's smell is her favorite. She then asks Keiki to give her his underwear. Now the universe slapped his delusion a while ago. The tea, music, temperature, and lighting were set up for Keiki to fall asleep. Shuma and Koharu seem to be getting closer, so the operation appears to be going well. But that is based on the fact that Koharu is hiding her age, and if Shuma finds out, his lolicon might take over and make him lose interest in her. Keiki probably needs one more push right now, so he suggested a double date, which is an excellent small step forward. Keiki was thinking about who might be the date on his side. Yuka could be risky, Ayano is not possible, and Mao is no good, so the only remaining is Sayuki. Sayuki was surprised to see Koharu, especially when she heard her say senpai to Shuma. Keiki then explains why Koharu hid her age and will accept taiyaki as payment for keeping the secret. There, explain it thoroughly. Sayuki suggested that bowling would usually be boring, so she said to set a penalty for the lowest scoring player. She really loves thrills? No, the sentence was that the first place winner would draw on the last place player's face, and the person in third place had to follow any order from the winner. Now this is exciting. They then started bowling, and that's when Koharu revealed that her father likes bowling, and they often come as a family. No wonder she's good with it. In the end, Koharu won. I knew it. The second was Keiki. Didn't expect this. Third was Shuma, and lastly was Sayuki, who became a drawing book. Bro just hit her unlucky day. I'm sobbing. As a penalty, the order Koharu has for Shuma starts from that day. She called him Shuma-kun, and he was willing to accept that as a penalty. Now the universe is in favor of them, huh? Koharu thanks Keiki because he wouldn't have had a chance with lolicon Shuma if he hadn't hidden her ribbon. All of that is thanks to Keiki. Koharu has gotten closer to the person she loves and is very happy. Koharu wants to be true to herself and will tell Shuma how she feels. Shuma was riding a bike when she saw Koharu. She then asked if he would like to walk home with her. The ship is sailing in good condition, I'm certain. Koharu then stops walking and asks Shuma if he remembers that they met in the exact place where they were 1 year ago. Koharu started unzipping the jacket she always wore with Shuma, revealing the blue ribbon indicating she was in her 3rd year. Who was biting their nails? From the day they first met, she has always been in love with him. She chooses this day to be honest. As a lolicon, Shuma can't date her, so he apologizes. But then she got rejected. At the park where Shuma is sitting, Keiki arrives asking how it feels to dump a cute girl, and then says that Koharu asks him to play the Cupid role. It took Koharu a year to muster the courage to talk to him. But then, after getting her to put so much courage into telling Shuma how she feels, she gets the response that he's a lolicon and can't date her. Kiki being more straightforward than ever. Shuma then opens up about how he never forgot the girl he met on that street. She was cute, and he hoped he could ambush her again, but she never saw her again. Shuma didn't realize that the girl was Koharu because her hair was much shorter, and when he made her cry, it also broke his heart. So that clears everything. In the astronomy club room, Koharu is crying while looking at her picture with Shuma. Kiki arrives, and despite his support, she is still dumped. Who wouldn't? They continue talking until Shuma comes. He then says that he enjoyed his time with Koharu, even though he's a lolicon and needs rehabilitation. He asks her if they could start as friends. Did he bump his head or something? At first, Koharu jokingly gets mad at him, but she then agrees to begin as a friend because she's happy as long as she's with him. Shuma then asks why the room is so dark, so he opens the lights only to find the room full of his pictures. Oh my, why unseen what's coming from here? Mizuha and Kiki were in their living room when she asked her brother his opinion about pastel green panties. Kiki believes that it suits her and is very fine. Undies got exposed again. Kiki then asks his sister what she would do if he said he wanted to make a girl his pet. Mizuha thinks she will call the police. If he also said that he wanted to become a girl's slave, she would also call the police. If he said he wanted to sniff a girl's panties, she would call the police. Calling the police is her first solution, no doubt. But if he said he wanted to fall in love, she would support it. The siblings continue talking when someone rings their bell. It was Sayuki, and she came to Kiki's house because she was bored. Kiki then asks Sayuki why she came into his house that day, and it was because she wanted to show him something. A dog's ear, tail, and gloves. She wears this thing and asks Kiki what he thinks about it. He believes that it was startlingly cute. Sayuki then apologizes for the garbage pickup day when they did something that might have gone too far. That's why Sayuki came today, to get some love from Kiki. And if Kiki doesn't do the loving, she will present the Mao work about him and Shuma. Now he's getting blackmailed for the nth time. Kiki then gives Sayuki a handshake, pets her head, and pets her bellies. Because of that, Sayuki was very happy and said that she pulled Kiki towards his favorite boobs. Mizuha then saw them in that position, so Kiki called an emergency family conference, where he explained that he was not a pervert and that she misunderstood it. I doubt she'll buy it. Sayuki had fun during her stay. Having Kiki's sister witness them was pretty exciting. Sayuki was about to leave when Kiki asked her if it had to be him, the master, to treat her like a pet, and if maybe there was someone better suited. Sayuki answers that masochists have their sense of pride. They only open their hearts and give up control to those they see as worthy, and Kiki is the only one who can be Sayuki's master. Bro, just speak the truth, I'm certain. After Sayuki, Yuka shows up at Kiki's house, who also came because she was bored. Phew, why is getting bored so prevalent nowadays? Yuka comes to discipline Kiki and brings out the bunny outfit she has. I'm sobbing, she also has a costume. Kiki thought that Yuka would wear them, but it was really for him, and if he refused, Yuka would punish him with Mao's work. Oh, this is unexpected. Now that Yuka feels happy, she gives a special reward to him. She proceeds to take her panties out because boys love them. Undies-kun has gotten so much exposure lately. She then trips and falls above Kiki, who is unfortunately seen by Mizuha again. Once again, Kiki called an emergency family conference and tried explaining that he was not into things like bunnies and it was just a misunderstanding. I doubt she'll buy this. The day ended when Mao called him on a cell phone. She was asking Kiki to moan and imagine someone was down on his nipples, and it felt good so that he couldn't help it. Ro got tricked with some perverted human. Kiki refuses and then hangs up when Mizuha appears, wanting Kiki to dry her hair. Mizuha was surprised today because someone pretty and cute was a pervert. Becoming a master and a slave, Mizuha asks her brother if he is happy that such a cute girl is making offers like that. It was missing when Kiki checked the panties he was hiding under his bed in his room. He then discusses it with Shuma and Koharu and how he guesses that Cinderella might be Sayuki or Yuka. His reasoning is getting better and better. Thinking about it, Koharu believes it could be a win if Cinderella took her panties back, which means she never intended to leave them with the love letter. There is a reason why Kiki volunteered to become Sayuki's master for one day. Having Kiki as the master was a dream for Sayuki, even if it was only for one day. There, his operation was getting started. Sayuki was about to go first, but Kiki said the dog could not go off alone and a good pet walked beside its owner. Sayuki, who was wearing a skirt, was worried, but Kiki argued that plenty of other people were wearing dresses too, so it should be fine. The ride's wind pressure will make the skirt float up, allowing Kiki to confirm the panties hidden underneath. Kiki couldn't get what he needed, but seeing a new facet of Sayuki's personality was a plus. They tried a lot of rides, but all of Kiki's plans had yet to be thwarted. He picked his unlucky day, I'm certain. Sayuki asks what they will do next, but Kiki asks her what she wants to do because he doesn't want to be mean and for his puppy to be unhappy. So Sayuki suggested the giant Ferris wheel. Ultimately, Kiki couldn't see Sayuki's panties after all. Kiki asks her why she chose him as his master, and it's when he joins the Shadow Club, where he grows attached to the boy who came by so often. The realization Kiki has is that a bit of perversion might not be a deal breaker if she's so charming. As they are walking, Kiki observes that Sayuki is still minding her skirt and only has a short time left before he will no longer be her master. So he asks Sayuki to lift her dress, only to find out she was not wearing any. In conclusion, Kiki could not figure out if Sayuki was Cinderella. Why is undies-kun missing? I bet he's still in shock. His first thought was to run away, but he couldn't just leave a girl without panties alone on the streets at night. Few, being a gentleman, prevailed upon him. In the club room, Yuka can't help but ask Kiki what happened between him and Sayuki, but he won't say it, so she then asks Sayuki, who is embarrassed to say it. Yuka then tries an experiment on how much Sayuki can hold her jealousy. But as the investigation goes on, Yuka and Kiki fall from a chair, causing Yuka to fall on top of Kiki. Never doubted a bit, top is their favorite spot. Sayuki saw, and since then, she has started avoiding him again. Kiki then decided that he would talk to Sayuki, who had reached her limit. She was acting weird lately because she thought Kiki was playing hard to get. Now that Kiki can follow through with his real goal of knowing the sender of the love letter, who refused to identify herself, Sayuki is the prime suspect, but since she doesn't intend to come out willingly, any more investigation is a waste of time. He just chose to press the give up button this time. Then he has only one thing to do, so he asks Sayuki if she's the one who took the panties in his room. She then confusingly said she was the one who took it and was wearing it now. She pulls her skirt up only to reveal that she is wearing Kiki's boxers. This is way more expected than ever. I'm sobbing. It turns out that Sayuki is not Cinderella and is just a pervert. No doubt, as Kiki was going home, he encountered Yuka, who didn't have an umbrella, so he shared it with her until they arrived at Yuka's house. Kiki was about to set off when he sneezed out of the cold, so Yuka offered a warm drink. Hope the drink isn't a paid actor here. Now in the room, Yuka took the opportunity to look at her panties, but he gets caught with evidence of this, and Yuka asks Kiki if he wants to be her slave. He had no choice but to agree. In the club room, Sayuki notices Kiki is putting so much effort into caring for Yuka. Some of that happened, and Kiki ended up being Yuka's slave. Both of the girls keep arguing about what's better, big or small boobs. Both sizes are unique for Kiki, but if push comes to shove and he has to choose one, he loves big boobs, and no one can change that, even if you enslave him. He chooses to be honest this time. A slave's duty begins early in the morning. Even on Sundays and holidays, the mistress's orders are absolute. For now, Kiki shall endure, even if he has to grovel through the mud. Yuka was going to bathe, so Kiki thought it was an excellent opportunity to find the missing panties, but she reminded him that if he ever did that, he would be sentenced to life. Undies-kun just showed up, will you? In the bathroom, Yuka shouted because he saw a spider, making Kiki run towards her and see her naked body. And here we go again. Because of this, he was punished. But after that, Yuka asks Kiki to stroke her hair because it reminds her of her grandmother. Yuka willingly chose to be alone because she was afraid she would feel betrayed if they left her. But despite that, Kiki kept talking to her repeatedly until she got tired of ignoring him. If Yuka wanted to be alone, she wouldn't go to the library. But in reality, she was waiting for him to come and talk to her. I doubt they're playing mind games now. Yuka was getting embarrassed, so she presented to contact Kiki for a drink, but she tripped and fell to the bed as clumsy as she was. Meanwhile, Kiki saw something from the bed and took it, only to see his boxers. Okay, Boxers-kun got another exposure. Kiki then asks her why she took it and asks for a brief explanation. There, give him what he deserves. When Yuka was searching for Kiki's things, she suddenly saw the boxer and put it in her bag. She smelled it just a little because she was curious. Bro chooses to use the word a little to conceal Summer break is starting tomorrow, and Keiki is a little sad because he will experience another summer with no girlfriend. Shoma agrees, but he practically has a girlfriend, but he is stuck between a friend and a couple that's the same as actually dating. Bro's unlucky? No. Although Koharu is cute, tiny, and has beautiful form, she does have certain shortcomings that more than cancel out her positives. When she invited him to her room the other day, he thinks it is just a standard room, but he finds over 100 DVDs labeled as records of Shoma and a notebook that kept track of everything he does in one day. Keiki has also had the same experience. He caught Sayuki wearing his boxers. When Keiki receives the letter, he is almost sure that he will have a girlfriend and have a good summer, but until today, he still can't find who it is. I guess he needs to ask Sherlock Holmes now. Mao receives an offer to create a one-shot manga. Although she's focusing on the BL genre, she doesn't know what to do in her life yet, so taking that challenge for sure was a good idea. Mao doesn't know how to write shoujo manga, so she hoped that if Keiki had a girlfriend, she could interview him, but he didn't. So Mao researched how a boy would react if being approached by a girl. She then sat on Kiki's lap and jokingly was about to kiss him. They're enjoying experimenting, yeah. While walking up the stairs, Keiki saw Ayano, who was working hard as a council member. She then hugged him to recharge and gave him a ticket to a swimming pool nearby, valid for 5 people, as a way of gratitude. Did she just make him a charging station? The free ticket Keiki got was valid for 5 people, so he gathered Sayuki, Yuka, Mao, and Mizuha to join him for a swim, but Mizuha still needed a swimsuit. Keiki, being prepared, gives her the new swimsuit he selected for her. Mizuha doesn't need to worry about the sizes and stuff, as they wouldn't call Keiki the boob sommelier for anything. Sayuki then appears wearing a regular blue swimsuit, but because she has massive breasts, there's no way to avoid looking very sexy. Next is Mao, who also looks very good while holding a sketchbook to draw naked hot guys that she will see. She's not prepared, no doubt. Next up is Yuka, who looks cute and angel-like. Lastly is Nizuha, who looks nothing but just perfect. They then started swimming. Yuka and Sayuki once again argued about who would be sliding with Keiki. They settled it by a water gun fight, and Yuika was the one who declared the winner. After entertaining the other girls, Keiki decided to find Mizuha, who was in the warm water pool. They were about to play too, but Mizuha suddenly cramped her leg, so Keiki piggybacked her, which also happened before. When they saw the rainbow, Mizuha said she was not against her brother liking boys. Earlier, she read the manga Nanju wrote and got it on by advising Sayuki's swimwear. Koharu then appears looking to participate in her special event called Cute Girls Assemble. It is a love confession competition where participants compete over who can make the most heart-throbbing love confession. Now this is exciting. Sayuki then declared that every girl would participate, and the winner would get the right to give one command to Keiki, which he must obey. Did they just make Keiki the price? The competition starts with Sayuki, who introduced herself as a third-year student and head of the Shoto Club. Her confession is addressed to a kohai in her club, a year younger than him, and is very cute. She then confesses that if he accepts her feelings, she will give him everything. That was good for a starter, no? The second one was Yuka. Her confession is addressed to a senpai in the same school group as her, and her message is that she won't forgive him if he wags his tail at some other girl. That was a good liner to end it. The third one was Mao. She addressed her confession to her classmate and a close friend, and her message was that the only one she saw was him. She chose to use the forbidden technique Ha. For the last contestant, Mizuha, she addressed her letter to her older brother, and her message was that she loved him. Now this is unexpectedly expected. In the end, Mizuha won, scoring 120 points. No doubt. Keiki wanted to talk to Mizuha, so he apologized first before lifting her skirt, and that's when he found out that it was Mizuha who was the Cinderella who dropped her panties. This is the plot twist we are looking for. Thinking about Cinderella's perspective, she takes the panties to his room and always brings them with her to avoid getting caught. Mizuha then asks how Keiki knows it is her. He then shows a picture of her in the background of the day he found the love letter. No wonder he couldn't see who the Cinderella was because Keiki initially removed Mizuha from the suspect list. Mizuha then confessed that everything Keiki said was true and that she loved him romantically. Who's speechless? She then asks him if falling in love with his brother is wrong. Keiki says yes. Ro chose to slap her with honesty. But Mizuha said there is nothing wrong with her feelings towards her brother. She then asks how he ever wonders why their age gap is just 5 months. That is because they are not brother and sister. This is a huge revelation. Mizuha then apologizes first before kissing her brother on the lips. Kiki wakes up from a terrible dream that he and Sayuki are married and become a perverted couple who take off on their deviant night walk. His dream fairy is toying with him. I'm sobbing. Mizuha then appears and kisses her brother once again. Kiki asks what she's doing in his bed once again, and it is because Mizuha feels lonely. After all, Kiki has been distant lately. Well for Kiki, who wouldn't distance themselves from her younger sister who suddenly kissed him out of the blue. It's hard for Kiki to accept that, so he runs away from home. He also called his dad to confirm it, and it was true. Reality-kun just slapped him even more this time. Kiki then meets up with Shuma and Koharu, who didn't expect Mizuha to be the Cinderella. For Shuma, Mizuha seems like a great girl, and Kiki agrees with it, but he can't just flip the switch and begin viewing her as a romantic interest. Having nowhere to go, Kiki stayed on the bench, where he saw Mao looking different because she pulled an all-nighter. It was getting dark and raining, but Kiki still didn't return, so Mizuha tried to find him but couldn't. After a while, Kiki returned wet from the rain and had a high fever. When we woke up, he found Sayuki, who saw Mizuha in the supermarket and was informed that Kiki had caught a cold. Oh my, he caught cold-kun. To care for her master, Sayuki placed herself beside Kiki, who was in the blanket. Sayuki keeps her master warm like an obedient dog naturally would. No doubt she's a good pet. Mizuha, who saw them in that situation, asks Kiki why he always ends up in that situation. Yuka then arrives and buys a get-well-soon gift, such as books that can get Kiki out of boredom if he feels better. They both started fighting again, only when Mizuha arrived, who stopped them because Kiki was sick. There, Mizuha is good at taming, no? Sayuki, Yuka, Mao, and Ayano are neither Cinderella, but we were cute and kind. If they were just not perverts, maybe Kiki could consider them. Couldn't agree more. Kiki was getting dizzy once again, and that's when he remembered when his dad introduced Mizuha as the new member of their family. Kiki then gets up and goes to the bathroom, but suddenly sees Mizuha naked. Mizuha seems upset about Kiki double serving today because she thought they were him away from her. She then apologizes for being the reason Kiki caught a cold and promises that she won't kiss him if he doesn't like it and will resume only after she gets him to fall in love with her. She's determined as ever. Kiki then asks if knowing how she falls in love with him is appropriate. It started when Mizuha first met Kiki. She still remembers how he said they would be family so they would be together all the time, and at that time, Mizuha had just lost the people she loved and was alone. Mizuha liked the words Kiki said. Honestly, she wanted everything they did, so how could she not fall in love with Kiki? No matter how Kiki responded to the confession of Mizuha, there's no way to go back to how they were. Phew, this is merely a fact. So he decided to keep being her older brother from now on. Mizuha and Kiki are family and siblings. Some have experienced some minor changes, and some haven't changed at all. They were all different. But one thing stayed the same for sure. Perverts still surround Kiki. And yet again, he's still girlfriend-free at the end of summer. Reality slapped him really hard this time, yeah. Remembering that Mizuha won the competition, who has the right to order Kiki, she suggested letting him be her boyfriend for a day. Kiki then agreed, and they do everything a couple does until they are satisfied and happy. The robot-looking person is at home, cooking while the man works overtime. He finally shuts his computer down and heads home. Takuma has been living alone for years now, but someone at his house is busy cooking delicious meals. He barely has time for anything considering his workload, so he decided to buy a housekeeping robot. As soon as Takuma steps into the house, he's welcomed by his robot. He later explains how the machine works and where he got it from. He thrifted the robot, and its only purpose is to make recipes out of the ingredients that are kept in the fridge. It also cleans the house like a housewife. Despite the fact that it is made by a robot, coming back to warmly prepared meals keeps Takuma going. He named his robot Mina and hit on her here and there, fantasizing how amazing it would be to have a wife. Tonight too, he's trying to flirt with Mina while she cooks and brings up the idea of her becoming his wife. After hearing that, Mina just stares at Takuma blankly, which makes him blush very hard. He didn't know how to break eye contact, so he told her to cook more side dishes to extinguish the awkwardness. Takuma finds the tension ridiculous and continues drinking his beer. The food is all ready to be served by now. Takuma is caught off guard when he reads what's written on the omelette rice. It reads "Love Takuma," and it lifts the dude to cloud 9. He's confused about how Mina wrote all that with the ketchup and decides to go through the manual all night to figure out what feature enables her to do those kinds of things. When he couldn't find anything, he came to the conclusion that her previous owner might have altered her program to add this feature. He's going through all kinds of possibilities until it's time for lunch. Mina gets up to head to the kitchen and Takuma decides to help her out. Mina tells him to be seated and wait for the food, but he doesn't stop. He cracks 2 eggs in a bowl and the shell falls in. Mina detects it, but Takuma is okay with it. His attempt to make an omelette doesn't go very well, and Mina keeps telling him to sit down and wait for the food. Takuma doesn't listen, and it starts to piss Mina off. She grabs his arm and strictly tells him to hand everything over to him. Takuma gets scared and finally listens to her. In a matter of some time, the food was all prepared and served to Takuma. Mina sits beside him without any remote expression on her, which is understandable considering she is just a robot. Takuma, though, seems to see her more than a robot. He had been in love with a girl once, but things didn't go as he wanted, and they broke up. After that, Takuma never tried to find love again and decided that he would give up on love entirely. But things are looking different now. He can't help but fall in love with Mina. He's trying to see if she feels the same way for him. The writing on the omelette rice from the previous night keeps appearing in his thoughts again and again. Maybe his hopes in love are returning. But with a robot this time. It is evening now and the sun is about to set. Mina is busy in the kitchen washing the dishes. Takuma decides that he will go and help her out, but Mina refuses to receive any help from him and tells him to sit down. Takuma tries to hold a conversation with Mina, as if she were a human, and vaguely asks her about her ideal romantic interest. Obviously, the robot is not programmed for this sort of conversation, so she responds however she can as a household cook machine. Takuma tells her that he's not talking about food and brings up the omelette from last night. He can't finish his sentence and keeps hesitating. Mina thinks that something was wrong with the food, but Takuma grabs her hands and tells her how delicious it is. Mina responds dryly to the compliment, and Takuma asks her to make the same food again. This is what happens when you give up on love. Takuma can't figure out if the writing on the rice was purely out of love or just some secret feature Mina has. It is hard for him to sleep at night, and he can't stop thinking about Mina. Being in love with a random home appliance doesn't make sense to him. Then he hears Mina's voice. He notices that she isn't in sleep mode and sits up straight to listen to her. Mina asks him what he prefers. Takuma answers thinking she must be asking what he wants for lunch tomorrow, but that doesn't seem to be the case here. Mina repeats the question, and it sounds similar to what Takuma had asked her in the kitchen earlier that day. Mina is asking about his romantic preference, and he is surprised. Takuma finally responds and confesses his love to Mina. Mina responds to his confession so dryly that he gets back in his blanket and starts freaking out of embarrassment. Takuma is then woken up by a very scary nightmare in the morning. In his dream, Mina has boiled her own head as food to feed Takuma. After this scary dream, Takuma is wide awake and Mina enters the room with a tray full of delicious food. Mina had prepared some breakfast of her own choice, and Takuma couldn't complain. As Mina is about to leave after serving breakfast, Takuma grabs her hands and tells her that he doesn't want to cook herself just because he told her that he liked her last night. Mina understands, and Takuma continues to devour the food. When he's done eating, Mina returns to the room and tells Takuma not to eat her because her body is made up of metal and resin, so it'd be toxic for him. As per routine, Takuma returns home from work, grabs his beer, and keeps drinking can after can. Mina just sits there and watches him. Takuma tries to remind himself that robots don't understand romance and he shouldn't ridicule himself. He finds himself pathetic and decides that he will stop living alone because the loneliness is getting to his head. Takuma wants to move on from Mina, but the thought of her liking him lingers at the back of his head. He keeps wondering if she likes him or not while constantly stealing glances at her as he empties another can of beer. He doesn't stop drinking and thinking about the possibility of Mina liking him back. He had drunk past his limit and Mina got up to remind him that. He tells her to let him drink because he wants to. Mina listens and brings jugs filled with the amount of water equal to how much beer Takuma had drunk. She tells him to drink the water, but Takuma tells her that he can't handle that much at one time. He refuses, but the robot makes him drink it forcefully. Takuma wants to keep drinking, but Mina empties the last cans of beer and tells the dude that he's run out. The dude is drunk and asks the robot what she thinks of him. She tells him that she sees him as her husband upon his demand from a few days ago. Mina understands what it means to be married, and Takuma couldn't be happier. He's now married to a robot. He wants to help her with the chores, but Mina refuses yet again. Takuma was drunk talking and about to sleep, so his now wife puts him to bed. Takuma wants her to sleep with him, but Mina refuses, saying she doesn't want to disturb him. But Takuma insists and the robot gets in the bed with him. The two make eye contact for some time, but Mina's eyes scare Takuma, so he asks her to close them. Being in a bed with a girl turns Takuma on, but Mina doesn't understand any of that, so he tells her to brush it off. Mina looks up the meaning online and understands that Takuma is sexually aroused. She asks if she can help him. Takuma's heartbeat fastens and he tells the robot that he'll be fine. Takuma wakes up the next morning, regretting everything he did while he was drunk last night. Mina enters his room and Takuma notices how her eyes look different. She tells him that nothing's wrong with her. She then asks if he's hungover, but he isn't, thanks to all the water he drank. Takuma gets ready for work while Mina prepares food. He figured that Mina changed her eyes because he mentioned how they scared him. Takuma clears that misunderstanding by telling her that her eyes are pretty. Mina listens and changes her eyes back to normal. The food is served and Takuma starts eating with everything from the past few days flashing in his mind. Takuma compliments the food at last and Mina acknowledges the remark. Entering this picture, Shintaro Tokimitsu is daring to live like a one-man island for a long time. Unbeknownst to him, his fate has decided to have his world rocked harder than a pinball machine. When there is this girl named Tawa who literally flew the coop and landed on his terrace. Looks like this lucky guy got his hands full with this new divine balcony buddy. It's like having an unexpected rain of sweet marshmallows on the top of his head. Well, with the room filled with the sweetest vibes, there's something that screams about her not being from around here. Shintaro is caught in a dilemma about this supernatural, celestial being as his roommate, while thinking about what holy havoc she is bringing to this table. Not gonna lie, this man has just signed me up for this upcoming cute and pure chaos. Shintaro, with his solo ride, has this girl, Tawa, working some divine magic. This is bound to get interesting. All of a sudden, the clouds of pink smoke clear to unveil a mysterious landscape of pure bliss. Imagine this picture-perfect scene of green land with an ocean view, a couple of Greek temples, and a Colosseum chilling right before some epic mountains. Not to mention, the sky here is exploding with every possible color to ever exist, blending into an unimaginable view while throwing the most aesthetic sunset ever. As the wind touched the cheeks, an angelic voice from heaven blessed the hearts and the ears. Talk about this angelic dive. This white-haired woman desires a scoop of humans from a close-up. Seriously, her reflection in the river is as magnificent as the pearl, flying through while leaving behind a trail of white feathers. Though she is swirling through the wind with her gorgeous white wings that would make her the next Victoria's Secret model in Utopia. This divine angel is freaking out a little while flapping her wings through the pink clouds. An angel is dipping out her stunning feathers, but she clenches this black-blue brooch over her chest as if it's her lucky charm. It looks like greeting and meeting people does not happen to be the skill in her resume. Twirling through the beautiful pink mist, she dives down through the dark blue surface of night and reaches the top of a mega city. There are buildings taller than giraffes on every damn corner in this buzz-filled land, as humans are crowing the place like ants scurrying around. Not to mention, the dazzling lights lit the city, making this angel sigh in awe. A small rosy smile with tinted cheeks plays over her lips. She thinks this might work after all, as she believes it might land an incredible beginning. At the Fanny store, a guy announces his departure, while a man praises Shintaro for his good work today. The night's darkness paints the streets with a pin-drop silence. His footsteps can be heard alongside his tiresome sigh. With his backpack, Shintaro complains about this extra-long shift running a number on him. Suddenly, a cat crosses his path and stares at him in this darkness. He slouches down to pat him as he finds her very familiar. Flashing back, this guy reminisces about a time he picked a cat that was right before his home. But sadly, he could not keep her, so his neighbor, who happens to be the cat person, took her in. Staring at her, he believes being ready enough to take her in, but it is too late for that now. Declaring his arrival at home, he wears his shoes out and proceeds to freshen up. This guy has started living alone a month ago when he joined high school, as he expresses getting used to his new life by now. Putting his backpack aside and having a look at his mess, suddenly he sneezes while thinking the cold must have caught up to him with this lifestyle. Thus he falls on his bed instantly, where he desires for some company that is not just his walls, book, or his own thoughts. With a wavy wind letting a white feather slip in, he sleeps peacefully that night. The next day at 8:15 a.m., his alarm starts buzzing to begin a new day with new hope. Although he complains of feeling utterly uncomfortable, he remembers the cold might have caught on too hard. He then reaches the fridge to pour some milk and proceeds to sip it when the wind touches his hair. Starting at the source, he figures the window to be open while he credits his darn luck that nobody broke in. Not to mention, this guy looks pretty broke anyway, but a sudden stare at the floor confuses him. He sees a woman in white sleeping on his balcony in the most blissful way possible. This guy just jumped a mile high while letting out a blood-curdling scream as if he nearly had a heart attack. Yelped like a scaredy cat, he spilled the milk all over her while fumbling on his words trying to make sense out of this. This white-haired woman wakes up, opening her gorgeous blue eyes as Shintaro believes her to be alive, fortunately. Making him blush like a tomato, she wishes him a very good morning in the most adorable way possible. Another scream in surprise, he spots his spill over her chest. Later, this girl wipes herself out in his bathroom, while he is out there turning hot red, whimpering about what he has gotten himself into. What the heck is this? Cutting out the good thing aside, he did not discover a corpse, but this human could be anything. From a thief to a cosplay or a runaway girl, while not ruling out the possibility of her rocking a serial killer profession. His brain scurries this information on fast forward to mull over as many questions as possible. He then asks himself why he is letting a trespasser use his bathroom so politely. Knowing about spilling the milk in surprise, he is battling with his own thoughts, trying to make it better in his head. Thus, the only explanation he could come up with is he is being pranked for a TV show or an online video. As she is washing her clothes in the bathroom, Shintaro is turning his apartment upside down to find any sign of a camera. Suddenly, she comes out to ask for some clothes, but she regrets seeing him panic about finding some fresh clothes. Later, in a white shirt, she blushes. On the other hand, he can only apologize for having this spare. Brushing aside, she asks to apologize for napping on his balcony last night without any consent. As if her soul is taken fresh out of a flower maze, she glances at his site, while exclaiming to introduce herself as Tawa. Gasping escapes his lips when he looks closely enough to see her super gorgeous face. With that aside, she asks his name when he is all wonderstruck by her presence. Thus, he introduces himself as Tokumitsu Shintaro when they are sitting on the floor of his messy apartment. Not gonna lie, the land of Shintaro-sama sounds more like an after-hurricane zone. She then mentions how kind he is to her when forgiving her for trespassing on his property and letting her use some clothes. Calling him Shintaro-sama, she never thought she could land such a pure-hearted guy, as she calls this the work of God. Though warmly smiling at her, he believes this girl to be extremely nice and properly elegant. Moreover, she wishes to have a meet-up with his family as well, while he expresses living alone here. Wonderstruck to hear this, she mistakes this block of a room to be a huge mansion with these windows. Baffled by her questions, he is astonished to see she does not know about apartment buildings as they aren't even rare. After he brushes her foggy mind, she lets out a gasp when she learns he owns this single block of a room only. However, she mentions how she thought this to be a storage room. Given the mess here as if the storm chooses to come here to wreck every corner, he doesn't blame her for coming to that conclusion. Hence, she compliments him on having a very compact and cozy home while he chuckles at that nervously. This guy finds this model's face as a nice, kind-hearted weirdo fallen from the sky onto his balcony. He then asks her the reason for sleeping over his balcony, so she proceeds to show him gratitude for letting her have a nap, and she wishes to repay him for that. All of a sudden, turning red in the face, she hunches over him, asking if he has anything he would like her to do. Gradually, his glance falls over her melons. He screams for some personal space while this girl continuously claims to be doing anything in her power to pay him back. A sudden thud to the ground, he screams to have nothing for her to do that he wants. Not hearing a no, she then quickly stands up to offer her delicious cooking in exchange. But she doesn't require an answer for that, so she rushes towards the kitchen like a happy-go-lucky girl. However, he tries to stop her from doing that, but she ends up opening his fridge to find nothing but plain milk. Hence, he explains how he does not have to cook when he gets everything made from the outside. Jumping like a kid, she proceeds to take over the chores of this house as a gratitude gift, while asking him to let her clean for the least. Screaming at the top of his lungs, he exclaims that has stuff he doesn't want anyone to pry on. Rushing in to put aside his books, he discovers Tawa screaming in pain, so he charges over to the balcony for her aid. Only to find her between some cat's dispute, she reads God's words of love, saying that one must love their neighbors as they love themselves. Befuddled by this sight, he asks her the reason behind preaching some cats. He then mentions how house cats here love to have some good scraps. Wrapping the bandage over her finger, she tells him how fighting isn't the answer to anything. But he assures her about seeing them napping together often. Hence, she thanks him for being a kind-hearted soul, as his pure vibes help clear her heart. Next, he claims Tawa has no reason for running away like this, but he figures it is too risky for a girl to crash some nights away from her home. He asks her to go back to where she comes from while asking if she lives closer by any chance. Looks like Shintaro-sama's days at inflation might be making it hard to host such a pretty guest. Good luck explaining her the bullet points about rent and skyrocketing bills to his newly divine roommate. Furthermore, he asks if it is far away in the outskirts, but shaking her head, she confronts it to be in heaven, as it is God's abode. Thrown from a loop, he finds himself pummeled over by this confusion. Again apologizing for some proper introduction, she introduces herself to be an angel Tawa. However, this guy does not seem to buy it and thinks this girl has totally lost it. He is freaking out when stumbling over to some sick psycho who thinks of her as an angel from heaven. She then explains her arrival on Earth last night on God's command, on the mission to work on her study of human operations, on behalf of all the angel kind. While she goes on yapping about some stuff, Shintaro is panicking while thinking how she isn't her runway model. Blasting his thoughts to the point of exploding in no time, he figures her to be the dangerous loco. Not to mention, if he doesn't get her out of here, then he would be buying some endangered snake oil in no time. Looks like the marketing strategy changed, exchanging their sellers with some supermodels to boost their sales faster than a rocket launch. While she is complaining about having fewer human interactions lately, unbeknownst to her, he is shivering at God's speed. This guy is freaking out hearing her make up such stories, while raging one thought after another, without letting the first one finish. His brain rampaging inside with his neurons, he screams knowing that he has let a monster or psychopath in his home. Going in circles as the god of depression possesses his bloody face, he regrets accepting the fact that anyone who naps over someone's balcony would ever cut out to be normal. On the other hand, Tower explains having an interest in him for a long time. She further expresses her happiness to score this chance to meet him in person. With that aside, she mentions this to be her first time visiting the living world, which is the reason she has nowhere else to go. All of a sudden, she makes a request and asks him if he could let her crash here for a while until she is done with her mission. With his 9:30 alarm buzzing up to get his attention, he remembers not being a lowly guy on a Sunday, crouching over some nasty couch to binge some movies. Rushing over to get his things, he shouts about having to go to work. Charging onto the balcony, he shoves her clothes into her hands, while claiming them to be dry enough to wear now. Moreover, he commands her to change right away while ignoring her cry for repaying his gratitude. Pushing her out, he yells that she makes sure about reaching home once and for all and quit roaming around. Being ready for work, he takes her out of the apartment and asks to walk her part way and leave for work ahead. Taking a long sigh of relief, he did not believe he could get out of this with every single strand of his hair intact. He believes in not having her as a guest, not even in daylight. Calling his attention, she bows at his existence and thanks him for having her over unexpectedly. Seeing that, he finds a gut-wrenching feeling called guilt, knocking over every corner of his stomach to make him question if he is doing the right thing. At the Fanny, as if he has seen a ghost, Shintaro, like a zombie, apologizes for leaving early today. Whereas the manager calls it to be not a biggie, as he doesn't have to apologize for something so little. He then asks him to take care of himself and get his routine medicine. Later, he sips out some cola in front of a sunset, while a cool breeze brushes against his cheeks. Out of the market, Shintaro proceeds to walk home as he complains about having a fuzzy head today. A sudden vision of Tawa makes her think if she actually arrived home safe and sound. Not to mention, he figures her to be super cute and super crazy altogether. Too bad it did not work out in this normal world. All of a sudden, he notices her crossing over the street with some old geezer. Out of the blue, she gets excited to spot Shintaro a few steps away. He then asks if her family finally arrived to take her home while asking if he is her dad. Turning around with an innocent smile, she expresses how she is not sure where to go. Then, a sudden, pure-hearted miracle of a man gave a hand to invite her to his hotel. A sudden jolt makes his soul jump a mile high, and the man shamefully turns his face away. Spotting him at a distance, he grabs her hand instantly and pulls her over his side. Just then, he makes his run for life with her, as he mentions everything about this plan of hers feels wrong. Wishing he could rewind time, he scolds her for being such a clueless person. Even though he explains she is in no possession of a roof, she must never come to the point of selling herself. With some mumbling words aside, he slowly loses his balance and falls suddenly over to the ground with a loud thud. Trying to wake him up, she screams his name, while not knowing what she can do. Afterward, as his eyes take some time to open up, he asks himself if he is at home. Tucked in all nicely, a woman calls his attention as he sees Tao-chan by his side, all teared up. She then asks how he feels right now and asks about any pain anywhere. Moreover, she asks if she can help with anything else. Seeing how she tucked him in with a wet cloth over his head, she seemed to have taken care of everything. Hence, he shares that he feels quite a lot better than before. With sudden tears slipping down her pretty pink face, she looks glad to know Shintaro is doing fine now. Seeing her whimpering, he is sparing her blushes as he realizes how she has been here sticking to his side all along, while he was shivering with cold. Wiping the tears, she apologizes for having an emotional range of a teaspoon. Adding to that, she asks if he would like some hot porridge. He surprisingly asks if it would be possible to even have any. Showing him a golden saucepan, she explains how she could not spot any rice around the kitchen. So she did some improvisation and put some leftover bread and milk to cook up a porridge. Not just that, she has flavored this with a lot of sugar to make this have some rich flavor inside. Excited to try this, he mentions never having anything like that in his life. With that, she takes a spoonful of hot porridge and blows at it to make it cool. Asking him to open wide, he exclaims on having enough strength to eat all by himself while dying out of secondhand embarrassment. With a bite coming his way, she warmly asks him to sit tight for this delicious ride and says, "Ah." She brings an adorable blush to his cheek while trying to feed him as he mumbles that this porridge is a huge success for a delicious treat. With a pink tint to her face, she is glad to be of service to this kind-hearted man. Another bite flavoring his mouth, he feels it to be so warm and homelike, as he thinks it has been long since anyone cooked anything for him. It suddenly dawned on Shintaro for not drilling the concept of "don't follow strangers" in her head. He then remembers telling her about how she cannot follow strangers off the street. Taking a look at her, he then proceeds to take a very long sigh, while taking a decision he might regret in the long run. Thus, Shintaro asks Tawa if she actually has nowhere to crash other than this, then she can stay here for a while. Beaming with excitement and blushing the scarlet out of her cheeks, she jolts from where she sits and embraces him in a tight hug. Locking him in her arms, this queen of red cheeks thanks him a ton for letting her crash in his place. Boiling into hot red, he begs her to calm down and let him catch some breath. He finds her to be a lot more goofy and crazy, on top of nice and proper. But to top it all off, she looks to be one good girl. Aside from that, he asks if carrying him here must have been a pure struggle, so he thanks her for dragging him here safely. Nodding to that, she says about having no trouble at all when she has wings to fly. Holding his hands, she whips out her white, gorgeously divine wings in front of him. To see this sight, his mind is amazed and blown away, and a golden glow to experience seeing such a thing for the first time in his life. In a flowing white gown, this addition of a magnificent set of white wings sets her apart from any humans he has seen before. Not just wings, but these are evidence of her existence from a place far beyond, called heaven. Eyeing him warmly, she grabs Shintaro's hands with a warm touch. Then she lifts him into the air with an effortless grace, while proving to him that she is an angel. Afterward, the next morning, Shintaro wakes up in his bed, thinking that it was just a dream in the cold. Suddenly, his gaze fell on a strange person sleeping beside him. A second later, he jumped a mile high, screaming like a broken trumpet. He manages to wake Tawa up from a slumber as her tiny wings protrude out of her back, while Shintaro finds himself to be clueless. Piecing up dots together, it takes him a while to get the idea, while she wishes him a very good morning. Hence, he demands to know why they are sleeping together, so she mentions having only one bed in the apartment. Seeing her loose clothes, he wishes the ground to swallow him up as he commands her to get changed, so they can go out for some breakfast. Rice is the choice. He watches Tawa mumble about collecting some stickers from this bread to get a plate. Turning red in excitement, she hops like a bunny when asking if a plate is more valuable than the bread. With that many jumps, she blindly whips her wings out as Shintaro screams in horror. Asking her to hide them, this commotion leaves the customers confused, while she apologizes for showing them in excitement, even when she is exceptionally taught not to ever slip them out in front of humans. Moreover, she tells him about learning this in her mortal realm, with a book about good kids' guide to life on Earth. Then he asks what an angel does except interfere with human lives. Thus, Tawa elaborates on how they pass on God's will to the people here and make sure the souls never lose their path between heaven and earth. Calling these two the primary jobs, Shintaro figures these to be a lot more hectic than he could ever think. Not only that, she expresses how this job requires bringing happiness to the people as well. So when he asks what this job involves her to do, dumbfoundedly, she then shares this is the reason God launched her here like a rocket. Later, thanking for her food, she takes a bite of the bread and jumps a mile high in happiness. She then requests to have such delicious steamed buns for every day, but Shintaro figures this idea rather aching. A sudden shock shoots through his brain when he remembers that 2 meals per day would make him break twice as fast. He believes that his pocket money will never be able to cover this expense, so he decides to use his long-forgotten kitchen to cook today. Thus, standing up before her, he asks Tao-chan to join him at the convenience store for some shopping. Seeing how she has nothing, he exclaims of being ready as soon as she finishes up. Suddenly, she reaches closer to check his favor, but he jolts right out of the ground in shame while sparing her some blushes. Upon asking about his fever, he protests about having just lethargy and not just some itsy-bitsy cold. While Tao looks glad knowing it, Shintaro just had a full panic dance calling for personal space. Not gonna lie, this guy laying on thick as he makes lethargy sound so funny for totally bumming out like a petite princess. Anyway, Tao looks glad about not looking for his soul between heaven and earth. Bless her optimistic heart. Later, at the mall, Tao finds this beautiful mansion to be equal to a palace, which blows her mind. On the other hand, Shintaro expects this place to be scurried over by the humans on Sunday. However, he asks Tao not to leave his sight under any circumstances. Turns out that this girl is short on ears because she doesn't know when to quit and when to listen. Screaming to call her back, they proceed to shop for some towels and toothbrushes. Trying to hide her red face, he mumbles about having some extra towels at home. Catching her overthinking, he asks if there is something wrong with anything. So she mentions that if the basket gets a bit heavy to lift, she can make it fly as well while showing her wings. Nudging that thought aside, they proceed further to pick up a pair of chopsticks. A sudden glance over the countless colors of mugs lying around the shelf catches Tao off guard. Not to mention that pink Neko mug in the center of the mug shelf is making Tao drool, as she cannot stop herself from looking away. Picking it over, she figures this art piece resembling the 2 cats over the balcony yesterday. Though Shintaro asks himself if she could want this, Tao ponders about him having enough mugs at his home, so she cannot take it. On the other side, a kid calls Tao a princess, while a student mistakes her for a gothic Lolita, making them squirm in their spot. Afterward, they decide to shop for some clothes, so Shintaro is glad about saving some extra for trying times like these. Moreover, he asks her to pick something she likes and not worry about money. While she runs to try on some clothes, the helper compliments on picking a hot girlfriend, which makes him desire the ground would swallow him right up. About to change her clothes, Tao realizes how a stranger like her is occupying his home like this while asking herself what she can do to ever repay his kind heart. Suddenly, she remembers her vision of bringing happiness to the humans, for which she is sent to learn. Rushing towards him, she cries about bringing him happiness in his life, which makes him turn red, as do the people she proposed. Afterward, strolling outside, he takes a long sigh of relief as he felt dying with secondhand embarrassment there. Aside from that, Tao asks him if she picked the right outfit, so Shintaro tells her that she looks great. But to his wonder, she looks like a drop-dead beauty fallen from heaven. Thus, they decide to grab a bite and walk home together. Shintaro finally manages to drag the stuff home just as the sun is about to set for the day. Seems like this guy got groceries weighing a ton. That only happens when a woman tag along. Tao then mentions putting all the food in the fridge. Hence, ever the charmer, Shintaro checks on Tao, wondering if she is beaten from all the shopping. But with a warm smile, she says that she had such a joyful evening because of him. Going about the items, Tao gets startled to see the Neko mug in between them and asks Shintaro about it. So he explains that she might need one of her mugs here as well, so it is hers now. Walking over the moon, she thanks Shintaro happily, while he thinks that he had a great time as well. Fast forward to nighttime, and his inner monologues take a funny turn. He roasts himself for being a cheapskate and not buying the bed first, as his priorities hang between fancy groceries or a comfy bed. As Tao opens her eyes and lets her wings loose, she sees a beautiful city that is so pretty, filled with all the lights. She sees something moving underneath her. It is not some anime twink chill. It was a train and she was told about it before. Tao flies to the train and moves along with it, which scares a man. Did not know that men can be scared of something other than gay guys. She flies and sits beside a railing and says to herself that she descended to a place with lots of lights. Now what concerns her is, how should she make contact with the humans? I would tell her that it is better not to interact with humans or another depressed fairy gothic girl will be born. Further, Tawa wonders that she thinks the Good Kid's Guide to Life on Earth said that when an angel descends to Earth, they should maintain a higher position than the humans and emit a powerful glow and introduce themselves in a grandiose manner. For that, they may extend their wings to their maximum size and spread them proudly. The second thing the book said was to hide their wings in blending with the humans, so now she has to choose between these two methods taught to her. Tawa wonders what would be the better choice for her. She wishes to establish good and friendly bonds with humans, so she should try to get to know them first. With that said, Tawa looks at the people from above who are busy in their own hustles and says to herself that they all look kind of busy. She yawns and flies away and says that she will try to look for a more easy place to begin with. After flying a little, Tawa finds herself in an alley and finds no one. She wonders if she should go back to the place where she was before. But she sure is hella tired and yawns and wants to sleep. The realization hits that she can't just go home. She looks at a building and is in awe while she thinks that it is a huge mansion. As she sees that, she flies to a window of an apartment and sees that the room is unused, so she supposes that she could borrow this space for a night without making trouble for anyone. Tawa enters the balcony and sits down. Her thoughts begin to follow her, and she wonders if she even has a place here. But she stays positive that she will try again in the morning, and she has a feeling that she will meet someone wonderful. With that said, she slept on the balcony. Coming to the present day, Tawa says that this is how she ended up sleeping on Shin's balcony. As he hears that, he sweats a bit and says that either way, he is very glad that she wounds up okay. Tawa turns to him with a plate of food in her hand and says that she is really glad that this room was his. She walks to him and sits with him. Shin narrates that this is a little while before the end of the last episode, and they were having dinner together after their shopping trip. Tawa puts down the food and smiles at him that the food is ready so he can start to eat now. Shin knows that he is being a spoiled brat. Tawa even asks him if she can feed him, not the meat this feminine-ass man wants to eat. He gets anxious and says that he can eat by himself. Then Shin starts to eat the food, and the moment he eats it, he yells that the food she made is so amazing. He loves the potato dish she made, and Tawa was so glad to hear that. Shin is amazed that she knows how to make so many dishes, and she tells him that she learned them from the Good Kid's Guide to Life on Earth. This book has got everything that probably none of y'all's small brains could fit. Shin begins to eat again, and he is lost in the flavor. The rice is fresh, the miso soup is hot, and the stewed stuff is succulent. He says bye to the life he had before, as he used to eat instant noodles and bread every single day. Well, it is just a fact that food made by somebody at home tastes so good. Shin remembers the moment when Tawa said that she vows to bring in happiness in life. Further, he begins to think that she is so sweet and nice, and a very good angel. He pauses for a moment that he is being served everything without getting anything back. Tawa notices that and asks what is wrong, and why is he not eating, to which he says that he was just thinking if he could do anything for her in return. But Tawa says that he is already doing a lot by letting her stay here. Still, Tawa says that she would like to ask him something after they get done with their dinner. After their dinner, Shin takes her to the bathroom, and he tells her that he will explain to her how to use the bath. Tawa listens to him, and he says that first, she has to close the curtain so she does not get the wash basin and the other stuff wet. Not the wetness his virgin self should be worried about. He tells her to make sure that the curtain is inside the tub. Next, he tells her that she has to turn this dial to get her hot water, and the other dial is for the temperature. Then, Shin tells her that if she wants to take a bath, she needs to fill up the tub beforehand and use a plug to block the drain. I wonder if the femboys use the same plug for themselves. Shin gets up and asks if that helped her, and she says yes it did and thanks him for it. Later, Shin stands outside the bathroom while Tawa showers. He thinks that having a girl take a bath at his place is getting him all on the edge. Shin can't stop his imagination and wonders what is wrong with him. Boy, your gender knows no self-control, so chill out. He runs to the TV lounge and turns on the TV, but well, even that is not of help because all he can think about is Tawa taking a bath. He bends down on the ground and thinks that this is too much for him, and he can't just live like this, because to think about it, a girl is going to be staying, bathing, changing, and sleeping at his place. Since self-control is a hard task for Shin like any other man, he thinks that this is hell for him. He gets up and says to himself that he should start to study. He has an English quiz tomorrow. Well, that is what he actually began to focus on. A side note about Shin, he can actually focus when he gets into the groove. After a lot of focus on his books, Shin gets up to take a piss break and forgets that Tawa is still in the shower. He opens the door and screams on top of his lungs as if his privacy got invaded. Shin closes the door right away and begins to say sorry because he did not mean to peek and he just needed to use the toilet. It got out of his mind that she is still in there and he keeps saying sorry to her. Tawa says in a shaky voice that it is okay while Shin curses the all-in-one toilet thingy in Japan. As he sits there and curses himself, Towa pops up and says that she will draw the curtains and wait so he can go ahead and use the toilet. Shin yells in his mind that he does not have a humiliation kink and then tells her that it is okay. He got rid of his urge to pee after the big surprise. After a while, Shin sits in the bath and wonders that when he was alone, he would not have to worry about anyone being on the other side of the door. But now he has to stay careful. Then Tawa comes to him and asks if she can wash his back for him. Well, as soon as he sees her, he gets so shy and draws the curtain on himself and says that there is no need for that and he can do it by himself. Later at night, when they go to bed, Shin lays down with Tawa beside him, and he thinks that at first he only needed one bedding in the studio apartment. He is shy as he thinks that they are way too close to each other. Tawa already fell asleep, but he can't sleep and he knows that he definitely needs to get an extra bed tomorrow. The next morning as the sun rises, Shin sits on his bed with his face looking like a zombie. Well, he did fall asleep, but for just a little bit. Then Shin grabs his phone and looks at the time. It was 5:45 a.m., not even 6 a.m., so he decided that he would go and take a leak and go back to sleep. Once again, as he opens the door to the bathroom, Tawa stands there naked, with just her bra on, and they both scream. Shin quickly closes the door and says that he forgot and is sorry for doing that once again. Tawa says sorry to him for waking up and changing without telling him first. But Shin says that there is nothing wrong with what she did. He is in the wrong here, so he accepts it. Later on, as Shin cleans his teeth with a brush, he wonders that he took a lot to go back to sleep. But he realizes how bad it is to walk on someone naked, and as this might continue because they take baths and change regularly. So Shin decides to set some ground rules. One comes across his mind, and that is, what if they left the bathroom door open when it is not in use? That way, when it is closed, they will know someone is in here. Shin takes his pants off to take a leak and opens the toilet lid. But well, Tawa walks in because she wants to brush her teeth and sees him sitting on the toilet. They both scream once again as if they saw a cockroach. Well, not cockroaches, but yeah, something similar to that. Both of them begin to say sorry to each other out of anxiety. Shin wishes to just go poof after a hot angel saw her small stuff. Then comes the third day of his life with an angel. He narrates that he was being spoiled so much by her, but at the same time he was unable to fall asleep. Tawa serves him the food she made for him and tells him to start with it. As usual, the food was amazing and he ate all of it. Shin thanks her for the food. Then he looks at the TV, and it is airing the Good Mofuning time. He realizes that he has to get to the school. Tawa asks if he is a student and he says that he sure is. He is a first-year high school student. As she hears Shin, she says that she will clean up and get ready too. But Shin tells her that she does not have to come to school with her because people would be in shock if they see her with him. He says more that Tawa must have other stuff to do too. But Tawa says that she has to stay with him to keep him happy, and she very much wants to go with him. They hold an awkward eye contact and he tells her that she can't come while he wears his tie. Tawa gets up and says that he should take a day off then. Shin says that he would love to take a day off, but he is a student and his duty is to study and he has to do that. Tawa finally understands and says that she should not get in the way of his duties and she will stay back. Shin feels relieved and says that he will leave some money behind for her just in case. Then, as he is about to leave, he says that if she could, he would appreciate it if she would stay home and wait, and he will be back by evening. Sounds like a typical man, so he tells her to watch some TV and relax till then. She says she will take care of herself, and with that said, Shin leaves. Shin walks to his school while he thinks that he kind of feels bad for her, but he could not bring her with him. But for now, the only thing that bothers him is, he is sleepy as heck and he is so full that he wants to throw up. Suddenly, a friend of Shin comes from behind and hits him and greets morning to him. Shin yells at him and calls him an idiot and what if it all came out. His friend asks him what he is talking about and Shin says that he could vomit. Then Sumugi comes and asks what they are doing. His friend Shu explains that they are talking and she comes to Shin and asks if he is okay because he looks very unwell. She asks Shuai to look at him too and he agrees with her that Shin looks very pale, like a ghost, and he looks like he has been possessed. Shin thinks that he sure is possessed, but by an angel. But Shin explains that he just did not get much sleep. Shui asks if he was busy over the weekend with work. Shin says he was kind of busy, and Sue suggests to him that he should take a day off today. But Shin says that he will be fine and thanks them for his concern. Sue says that she is worried for him because he lives alone. Shui turns to Sue and says that she is being too nice to him, but she says that this is a normal thing in friendships. So Shui asks to be nicer to him too, the way she is with Shin. He says that he is such a good boy and he goes to school on time too. Sue says he is a good boy in a careless manner, and he sees that. Shin says as he smiles that they have known each other for so long that they look like a funny married couple. Seems like Sue did not like that remark and asks Shin to never say it again. Well, that reaction hurts Shui, and he says that to her. Coming back to Tawa, she is at home, and she cleans the home along with the dishes and laundry. She makes the house shine. Is this one available on Amazon? Tawa lays down on her bed and thinks that Shin must be in school right now and must be studying. She thinks that they ate so much and that made her happy and holds her cheek just by thinking about it as if she was in love with him. Tawa looks at the sky from the window and wishes that he comes back home soon. Sounds like an abused woman in the 1950s who would wait for her husband to be back to abuse her more. But that is what y'all grannies considered love was. She gets up and wonders what he will have for lunch because he said he would be back by evening. Tawa thinks that he will die of hunger and will not be happy. Meanwhile, back in school, it is lunchtime and Shin is just going to have some juice, and he gives an excuse that he will get some bread later if the juice is not enough. He already had too much for breakfast. Sue picks his point and says that he does not cook, so now that makes her feel worried for him if he is being able to eat right. She sounds like a mother in love with her son, Sigmund Freud kind of stuff. She says that bread is all he ever eats for lunch, so he won't get nutrition that way. Even Shui says that he should eat a lot of bread to keep that nutrition up. But Sue shuts him up and says that this is not how he thinks it is, and this is not the way it works. As Shin hears them bicker about it, he laughs at how adorable they are. But he assures that he is eating well but can't say Toa's name in front of them. So Shin says that it is the occasional staff meals at the work help that he has been eating, so he is taking care of it. But this obsessed girl, Sue, won't stop asking him about it more and more. She asks that does he not work at a casual restaurant, and not even every day. Shin sweats with how much she has been asking him, and he just simply says yes. Then Sue holds her stuff and says that there is something that she was meaning to tell him for a while now, and that is, can she make lunch for him too, along with her own? Sue sweats and blushes while she basically wants to be her lunch nanny for free. Shin looks at her lunch and asks if she makes all her lunches by herself, and she gets a bit nervous but says yes, she does. Shin finds it so amazing that she can be a good cooking machine for him, but he already has a better one at home, so he does not really need a short-haired girl who looks more like a bisexual gamer gal who has a toxic average-looking boyfriend. Sue says that she is just worried about his diet as a friend, and she makes her own lunches, so she thought she could make some for him too, while she blushes to even say that. Well, Shui took his chance that if she does not feel any burden, she can make his lunch as well. But Sue says that he already gets his mom's lunches already, so he needs no lunches from her. Shui sounds like he took offense, and says that she should not underestimate a high school boy's appetite because he sure can eat both. Sue says to him that it would be too much work for her, and Shui exclaims that she just said that one more won't be a big burden on her. But Sue says that it means that she would have to make 3 lunches in total, and that sure is more work. Shin laughs as they both bicker, and he drinks his juice and looks outside the window to a surprise. It was Tawa with lunch in her hand for him. He screams and hides the window from the people and whispers to come to the roof, and he will be there. With that said, Shin runs to the roof while he says that he just remembered that he had to do something. They all look at him while Shui says that it seems like he had plans to meet a girl, and that makes Sue angry and she hits his head. Meanwhile, the students wonder as they look at Tawa if the stress or the lack of sleep is making them seeing things. He runs to the roof and passes a blonde long-haired girl. So as Shin finally catches up with Tawa, he's all like, "Dude, why'd you come here when I specifically told you not to?" He's freaking out, you know, because Tawa's wings are out in full display, and he's picturing the whole town gossiping about them being all over the news together, and that sure could be the flame of his life either getting better or going down the hills. But Tawa's just there, saying sorry left and right, saying she didn't mean to cause him any trouble. She was just worried sick that he'd forget to eat and end up starving himself. So she drops this package like, "Here, please eat this if you want to." Man, talk about a roller coaster of emotions. These two are like a sitcom waiting to happen. As Tawa is about to leave, but he stops her that he is sorry for pouting when she brought lunch for him with her heart poured in it. So Shin asks Tawa to eat with him, and she happily says she would love to. Then they sit down together with the lunch in front of them. As he takes the first bite, he tells Tawa that she makes really good food. Tawa says thanks to him while he eats. Shin thinks that it seems like she probably was not found out because she must have been trying to be discreet. Tawa eats too, and he looks at how pretty she is. Then Shin looks at the dish she made for him, which he loved last night. She made it for him again. He is taking a little too long to make that girl or angel whatever her wife. He needs to realize that gals like her are literally God sent. Tawa smiles and says that she knew that he would love it, and that makes her so happy. Then she says that she wants to learn more about the things he likes and want to work on it. He says that it would be great if she does so. Tawa says that she will cook lots of food for him too. Shin smiles and says to not cook too much. He wonders that he is possessed by an angel, but it ain't that bad, and he kind of likes it a lot. But he also feels very lucky too. Meanwhile, downstairs, the teacher asks who would help him carry the books, and Sue says that she would help him with it. As she is taking the books with her, she wonders where did Shin go. She even went and suggested making lunch for him, but he ignored, and she was unable to get a reply because of that shui. Back in the day, when she was just a little first grader, her folks took her on a visit to some relatives in the neighboring town. But typical her, she wandered off on her own, ended up getting lost, and started bawling her eyes out. Then out of the blue, this boy shows up, asking what is up and why she is sobbing like there is no tomorrow. And wouldn't you know it, it was Shin, her knight in shining armor from way back when. So Shin, being the stand-up guy he is, helps her find her way, and they stumble upon this house. She is all like, "Hey, this is where I live." And he is like, "Cool, glad I could help. Catch you later." And just like that, he is gone. But not from her mind, oh no. Thinking back, she realizes he was her very first crush, all the way back in the first grade. Crazy, right? But then life happened, and she did not see him for a whopping 9 years. Talk about a disappearing act. Way better than what y'all dads pulled off. Heck, she probably would have forgotten his name if fate had not decided to play matchmaker again. So it had been years since they last bumped into each other, and lo and behold, fate decided to throw them back together again. She could not help but chuckle at the irony of it all. But there was this nagging fear in the back of her mind, you know, the kind that makes you hesitate to bring up old stuff for fear of being labeled a stalker. So she played it cool, acting like their past did not even exist. Fast forward to today, she is just chilling by the window, minding her own business, when she spots Shin doing some shady business with Tawa. I mean, talk about a plot twist. She could not believe her eyes. It was like something out of a cheesy rom-com. But here is the thing, as much as she wanted to brush it off as coincidence, there was this weird feeling in the pit of her stomach. Like, was Shin really who he seemed to be? Or was there more to him than meets the eye? She could not shake off that sense of unease, you know. Anyway, she decided to keep her cool for now. No need to stir up drama just yet. After all, life is way too short for unnecessary confrontations, right? So she just leaned back, watched the scene unfold, and wondered what other surprises fate had in store for them. Meanwhile, Shin tells Tawa that she has to go straight home, and she can't follow any strangers, and she agrees to what he says. Toa grabs his arm and tells him to come home soon with puppy dog eyes, and he says he will. Someone met their horror upstairs, of course, and it was Tsu. Her eyes are wide open. He shakily says to herself that he really was meeting a girl and Shui was not wrong after all. Then Tawa spreads her wings and begins to fly away, and Tsu can't believe her eyes as to what she just saw. MC went to school today, and Tawa made him lunch as usual. After school, MC comes home and Tawa is already eagerly waiting for him at the doorstep. She greets him in all excitedly as she is very happy to see him. She tells him that she has made dinner for him so he can just munch on it right as he gets home. MC surely feels fortunate to have Tawa doing this kind of stuff for him, but this is getting too close to him all of a sudden. MC takes off his bag and puts it on the table, apologizing to Tawa for making him do all this stuff and also for school today. Tawa does not mind at all, and she feels like she should be the one to apologize for flying so much today. MC wants Tawa to stay low and not be careless about this, as he does not want anyone to see her fly. He wants her to lay as low as possible for the time being, but he is fine for now. MC notices that Tawa also washed his clothes for him. The thing is, MC did not teach her how to use the washing machine, so this is really surprising for him. He expresses just how surprised he is seeing his clothes washed and done without him telling Tawa to do it. He asks her how she managed to get the washing machine running as he did not teach her how to use it. Tawa lets him know that he did not have to teach him anything as she has a guidebook made specifically for this kind of stuff. This guidebook taught her everything about the washing machine, and she got it up and running in no time. MC sure is shocked to see that such a guidebook exists in her world, but nonetheless, MC wants to get ready for dinner. MC thanks Tawa for doing all this, and he suddenly glances over to his clothes and finds his underwear also washed and tucked with the rest of them. This makes MC blush and embarrassed a lot, as he never thought someone besides his family would be washing his underwear.